2022 Dodge Charger Scat Pack. We're doing an alternator on this. So I haven't done anything yet besides break the 2 bolts loose on the bottom. There's 2 on the bottom and 1 on the top. So you want to pop your trunk, get in here and disconnect your negative terminal so we don't have any power going to it. Then what I've done so far is just break the bolts loose on the bottom. So it looks like you have to get this from the bottom and the top, but I'm trying just the bottom. So you can see that ratchet there. I'll show you here. This is what I'm using, swivel head, and that, you know, it's a 15 millimeter. So I've already got the one broke loose in the back. Well, they're both broke loose, so I just got to get those 2 bolts out the bottom. So I'll let you know how this progresses. I'm hoping I don't have to jack it up and remove the wheel to get to it. As I suspected, there's a bar down here that is somewhat out of reach, and it looks like the best way to access it is from the bottom. I don't know if you can see that, but see the alternator leaning forward. So all the bolts are out, but it won't come out because of this bar here. And I have a 13 millimeter on the spot where I think I could break it loose. Let me see if I could break it loose, and if it starts to come loose, I might be able to get it from the top here. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to jack it up. But let's see how this goes. All right, can you see down here? I'm gonna shine a light. You see where that light is? Can you see that socket? But that's where it is. See how it's up like where the dipstick is? If you're gonna do it from the top, you're gonna have to feel around for it. If you jack it up, take the wheel off, remove the wheel well, you could probably see this pretty clearly from down there. Get that and the 2 bolts on the bottom of the alternator from the bottom if you want to do it that way. If you're going to do it this way, I've got that broke loose. I'm about to take it off, and it should loosen this bar here, this brace, and I should be able to lift the alternator completely up out of here. Like I said, I might have to take this hose loose, but I'm going to try to clear it without doing that. Now, this is what I just took off of there. So there's a stud down there. You cannot see it from up here. You got to feel around for it. I just felt there was a stud, knew where it was and the rough size by my feeling it. And it's a 13 millimeter. I got it the first time. But anyways, I broke it loose. It looks like the bar doesn't really want to come all the way out, but it's going to give me enough of an angle to remove the bolt from it and then pull the alternator out. So when you're removing this connector here, there's this little red tab. See how that popped and clicked? I don't know if you heard it, but you're going to pull it out, and then you're going to squeeze it up at the top, right where that is, and pull it out. And I can't do it. Let me see if I can do it with this hand here. But all right, boom. So that's loose, and then we have this terminal connection here, which is probably 12 or 13. And I'm gonna pull that off, and then I should be able to wiggle this alternator on out of here. So I wiggled everything loose. You can see it's ready to come out. That it's a little tricky, but as long as you get that nut off of the brace, the back part that we can't see, then you'll be able to get it loose. So the only thing stopping me now is this hose. So I tried twisting it with my hand. I can't really get it. I pulled this clamp back with these channel locks here. But I'm gonna use my big channel locks to twist this here and get it to pop loose. You may not want to do that on plastic pieces, or if you do it, just be careful. But this is aluminum, so it's not going to hurt it. I'm going to squeeze this, turn it back and forth. Once it pops, it'll slide off. So I'm going to try to get a little video here. See, these big channel locks make a big difference on something like this. But I tried my small ones, and they were just it wasn't doing the trick. So this has, you know, gotten pretty hot and it was really tight on there. But if you see, I got it loose now. Now I had to squeeze it tight and use both hands to break it, but now it's broke, so now I can just pull it out. So that's what I'm talking about. As opposed to maybe using those tools that you use to go around the edge of it. Those are useful if you have them, but in this case I don't. This is what I normally use. The alternator's out. You can see how this bolt is here. So when I was wiggling it out, maybe you can't see it because my arm's in the way. But when I was wiggling it out, I had to leave this bolt in and leave the brace there. But what I'm trying to do now is see if I can just, this brace will come loose. Alright, so see how it is? So there's your brace. So this back end is on a stud back there. And that stud goes through there, and then we put this bolt on. You can't see any of it. If you want to do it blindly like I did, you could do it from the top. But if you want to see what you're doing, you want to jack it up, take off the wheel, move the inner wheel well, and then you should be able to have a pretty clear visual of it. So as usual, you take off your part, compare it to the other one. Everything's looking good, matching up here. So I'm about to slide this other one back into place. Make sure your connectors look the same where your connections go. See how that one is? There's where it clicks in the top, and then the two prongs like that. So this one here, let's see, clicks in at the top, and then the two prongs like that. So make sure you compare it before you start trying to stuff it in there, because once you get in there and you're trying to get a part in on any vehicle, and you think that it's supposed to go in, you'll spend all day trying to get it in thinking you're doing something wrong, and it could be off by just a little bit because the parts don't match up quite right. Okay, I've got the alternator ready to go to drop back into place. And if you see, I put these bolts in already. Now this one back here, I put that brace on it already, and then I'm going to try to get it on the stud once I have it into place. If that doesn't work, I'm going to try a different way, but this is how I'm going to drop it in for now, and hopefully this works out. Okay, so update on what I did here. So as I was putting it in, I took those bolts and everything out so I could get it in, because I'm pulling the hose with one hand and I'm dropping it in with the other. So you risk those bolts coming out and getting in your way or falling all the way out altogether. So I left both of them out. I got it into place. Then the one on the bottom, so if we're looking at it here, once I got it in there, I put the one up in the front that doesn't have the brace on it into place, so it's in there. So the second one in the back, I first took the brace and took the back end of it and put it on the stud back there that I told you about. And now if you could see where it's sitting at right now. Hold on, flashlight. Can you see that? So there's no bolt in it, but you see the angle it is, so I have room to get that bolt, slide that bolt in, and I think I'll be able to get it all lined up before I put that nut back on the brace, the nut that is out of sight, that's back in the back there. The nut is on the brace back there, and I tightened it down. So that brace bar is a little stiff, but it's still, you can still move it a little bit. So I rocked the alternator into the position it's in, started that bolt that we see there. I'm going to put the terminal connections back on, tighten them up here, the connector there, and then, I don't know what I pointed at, but connector and then the terminal. So I'm going to secure that, then I'm going to roll it forward, tighten up the top one just a little bit to get it going, then go back in the bottom, get the other one started, take the other one loose because it might be just a little bit cross-threaded, and just make sure it's going in with my fingers nice and easy. And once I've done that, then I'll tighten everything down. Okay, So it's back into place here, and the bolts are started, but they're not tight. So what I did was start this one on the top, and then started getting the other ones in the bottom. So like I said, I did get that one started, but once I started moving it, it popped back out anyways. So it was only like 1 or 2 threads going. So here's the tips I can give you on this. So listen up. When you start this, don't take the hose loose. Wait, take the hose loose once you have the radiator, or pardon me, the alternator ready to pull out, because otherwise you're going to make a big mess for yourself. 2 bolts on the bottom. If you're going to do it the way I did it and try to feel for that nut that's back there that you're going to have to take off that brace to get that brace out that I showed you, you're going to be putting your hand down here like this. You see how my hand is? So I'm touching one bolt now. Can you hear that? So this is how my hands are, and that's how I get access to the bolts to get them started, and that's how I got my ratchet down there when I was taking them loose. Now here's another important thing. When you're busting them loose with the ratchet, get them out as much as you can without blocking yourself. What I mean to say is, once you start to have the I'm looking for the ratchet so I can show you. All right, so once you get that bolt out, let's say this is the body, the frame. All right, so once the bolt starts coming out, the ratchet's going to slowly lose space, and you're not going to be able to get the ratchet off, and that creates a whole other problem. So what you're going to do is get it out as far as you can with the ratchet, then use your fingers the rest of the way. If you have the other ones loose, then you can shake it, and while you're shaking it with one hand, you loosen it with the other. So you could do the same thing when you're trying to tighten it. If you're trying to tighten it, you can shake it. Like say you're starting it with your fingers and you can't get it quite threaded, you kind of shake it, and it just helps to take some of the stress off of that bolt. That's just how you get it started, or get it loose. But in this case, you're probably going to have to do that to get to wiggle that one out the rest of the way, because like I said, unless you can get a small stubby wrench in there, it's a 15 millimeter, you could probably do that. That might work. You might be able to get that wrench off of there when you're done. But you will reach a point with something like this where you can't get in there. So that's the only tips I could think of. But if you're kind of worried about that brace or whatever, if you run into problems, just jack it up and get up under it so you can see everything clearly. Last thing I need to add, I got those bolts tightened up down there. There's the clamp back on the hose, everything's done. I'm putting the belt on, but I forgot to start by saying you need to remove the belt. Usually what I do is I pull on it. If I can grab it and pick it up, I'll take it off one of the pulleys. And that's what I did here. So I didn't even use the tensioner. But in this case, we're going to need a 3/8 ratchet or a breaker bar. And you get down in there and we're going to turn it to the right. And I have my own breaker bar here that I'm going to put on the ratchet. But if you have something bigger, or you have the serpentine belt tool, use that. But we're going to turn it to the right. Belt orientation kind of pretty much stays the same. If you're careful, you could just leave it off, and then all you got to do is put it back on the alternator. But if you have a problem with the belt orientation, look up a belt diagram for your vehicle, and just make sure that it looks correct, because you don't want to be using a belt diagram that isn't specifically for this 6.4. But that's about it. I'm going to have to start here in a little bit. And there we go. Back together. Perm once again. Had to jump start it. The battery was completely dead. But another one done and in the books.